Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing beautifully well. Today for an interview, and I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be an absolute belter. We've got here Dino from IndiaFoxtEcho making the new MB-339A. I hope I've said that right. Hello Dino.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I know how busy you are and all of the guys we have on, so it's really appreciated, and we will take as less of your time as possible. Quick, just we're going to talk about obviously the new aircraft, the new module, and things around that. Quickly explain why we do this. It's because what we try to do is to build as best at the moment. With what we noticed that with the module developers in DCS especially, it's a bit of a one-way street. They can communicate to the fans through Facebook and stuff, which is great, but we're trying to make it a bit more of a two-way thing, and so we like to interview, not interrogate, but interview basically every developer with genuine fans questions to make it kind of two-way, and that's our job at the moment. So I'm sure you've all seen the Facebook post by these guys, and the MB-339, which is currently a free mod, and a really good one, by the way. It's going to be a proper module, which is great. This is literally exactly what we wanted to happen. Now, I don't know if you guys watch Grim Reapers, but I'm going to assume you know who I am, Dino. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm not too much into the DCS community, but I know you guys. I know what you guys do.
Okay, well, what you probably know is I'm your biggest, on the DCS side of things, I'm your biggest fan. I do everything I possibly can with the MB. I don't know what it is about that plane, and RC doesn't like it. RC doesn't like it, do you, RC? But he's not going to talk. But I think it's really awesome. I've given it all the attention I can, and the reason is it just feels really good. I do most of my DCS by feel. I'm not really a big guy who wants to sit down and look at T-pods and numbers and stuff like that. It's just my thing. When something feels right, then I really like it. And as soon as the MB, I got hold of it, then it's just really what I'm into. So it's great to see that you guys are making that step, just in the DCS sphere at least, into a professional module. I think that's great.
Let me clarify.
Here he goes.
I don't not like it. It just I can't play it. It freezes up.
I know we're bullying you, RC. We're bullying you. It's what we do. He can't for some reason get it. Hopefully that'll be fixed when it becomes a proper module. Blah blah blah. And I was just going to say, not to say that free modules aren't important, free mods aren't important, because they are. My job, kind of designated job, is to get people into DCS and try and keep them into DCS, and free mods really help that a lot, because they can come in and try stuff for free, and then hopefully we'll keep them sucked in, and that's what we try and do. Okay, anything you want to say to the kind of DCS viewers before we start kicking off with the questions, Dino?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank the community, because we had exceptionally good reaction to our announcement, especially thinking that IndiaFoxtEcho is, I think, a pretty well-established firm in the prepared, so Lockheed Martin P3D, Flight Simulator X, and now the new Flight Simulator field. So as a brand, we are not really that popular into DCS, but on the other hand, even with this situation, the welcome we had, the reaction we had from the community was fantastic, and the whole team is really pumped up and enthusiastic, and that helps a lot. That helps a lot. Also, the reaction we got once we announced that we are taking a free module and we're making it payware one, official module, if you want to. It's a bit of a difficult position sometimes, because there's people, of course, that say, yeah, but I got it for free, so why should I pay? And then we'll talk about the reason why we think it's a good thing. But sometimes the reaction you get are not that enthusiastic, and by and large, and the reaction we got were enthusiastic and very supportive. So we're grateful for that.
Roger. I mean, I'm really chuffed about the whole DCS community. Yes, there are some bad apples. They are in all communities, but this one particularly is so I don't really, just so really supportive. And let's face it, I wouldn't be here. God, 5 years later or so if it wasn't. Put it that way. So yeah, I think especially it's a great plan anyway. So I think you guys are going to do. I think you're going to do fantastic and fit in well.
Hopefully so. But one thing is that IndiaFoxtEcho as a company is a little bit larger than what you will see on DCS side. That's a huge change for us because mostly up to, I would say, 6 months ago, that was mostly myself with helps from time to time of different projects by different people. Now we have a more established group of legally they are contractors, but they are actually part of the team, and most of them are coming from the Frecce Tricolori Virtuali development group, of course. But so there is a lot of DCS experience in the group. There is also quite a lot of different skills and the possibility to sometimes to have a look beyond the fence of DCS and see and take what's good in one environment and in another, and have the best of everything in every platform we work on.
Awesome.
Which I think it's pretty great.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're going to start punching through the official questions. Now, Dino, I have to warn you, the whole idea of me doing this is that these are genuine viewers' questions, and they're not filtered and they're not checked. So just be warned, anything can come up. You might even get swear words. You might even get nasty people. You don't know. This is the whole idea. I trust the community to give good questions, and that's what we do. I don't want to fake it. So let's blast on with number one. Will there be a RAAF? I'm already stuck. I don't know what RAAF is. Skin as the RAAF used to operate the MB-339 from our good friend Merlin. Royal Australian Air Force. Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. It is. The answer is no, because the question is a little bit incorrect, meaning that the Royal Australian Air Force did not operate the MB-339. They did operate the MB-326, which was the predecessor of the MB-339. They're very similar aircrafts in many respects, but mostly the 339 is a more modern version of the 326, and the cockpit, the whole nose section is completely different.
Yep, I see that. Yep.
It's a pretty different aircraft in some respect, but also it's kind of its older sibling, so to speak. So no, we were not having the RAF livery.
Roger. Okay. This next one's interesting. What were the major factors to make you decide to become an official third party with ED, bearing in mind that you're already official with other games? What got you into the DCS official?
Yeah, it is. I'll try to keep the story as short as possible. It's a pretty long one. And it comes from two different directions, I would say. One is IndiaFoxtEcho, that is mostly my projects, and I have quite a bit of history in developing flight simulation add-ons. I've been doing this for like 20 years. And IndiaFoxtEcho as a name started 12 years ago. And it's just the name of my initial blog because I have no idea how to call it. And that was the short call sign for the aircraft in which I took my pilot license, which was India Alpha Foxtrot Echo. And in Italy, when in some other countries have slightly different rules, but in Italy, if the control tower sees there are no communication problems and no ambiguity, it will take the first letter and the last two. So it's gonna become IndiaFoxtEcho, and the name kind of stuck. And I've been operating in commercial add-ons, commercial modules for 5 years now. That's actually 5 years in these days. And my main focus has always been military aviation. So I did a number of military aircrafts. I did the F-14 Tomcat. I did the T-45 Gazok. I did the Skyhawk recently. I did the Eurofighter Typhoon.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I've developed something for Flight Simulator or for P3D, okay, the question was, why don't you develop that for DCS? That was the single most recurrent question I had in everything I did. The problem, and I've been in the talks with Eagle Dynamics for years on how to make that happen in one way or another. The biggest problem is that DCS is a very, very different platform from any other simulator. And it's not that I'm saying that one platform is better than the other, or you can have a better simulation in one or the other. It's true that DCS, in terms of combat flight simulator, in my opinion, is the undisputed king. It's by far the best. But the development of an aircraft which is not very, 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 very basic, so most of the free mods that you see, and I agree with your comment before that it's good there are free mods. If you want to take it to the next level, basically there's no middle ground. Many other simulators have their own set of system simulations, like take whatever, so fuel management. If you take Prepared or Explain or Flight Simulator, they do have their set of preset flight fuel management system that you can configure and have pretty much everything you need in a flight simulation. DCS has nothing of that. So if you do the step between a very simple plane and a fully simulated one, there is a huge gap of things you have to program yourself. So my attitude has always been fine, but it's one thing I'd like to do, but we need to build a proper team for that. It's not easy. It's not easy to find the right people. It's not easy to find the right skill level and whatnot. On the other hand, we had this group that started within the Frecce Tricolori Virtuali, which is a very popular aerobatic group in the DCS community. They had this development group, which is about half a dozen people, that started for their own reasons. So they wanted a better MB-339 for their show, and they, over the past 4 or 5 years, they've developed the MB-339 free module. But they could not make the step into the official module region, not because of their skill, but just because there was no, I would say, company behind them as a structure. So we were both heading into the direction of achieving the official third-party status. And since we're all Italian, since some of us leave within a couple of hours by car, so it seemed to be the natural thing. So it helps a lot. It helps a lot the fact that you can meet yourself. You can meet in person if you want to. It helps a lot if just the fact you can speak in Italian, because you can be easily hear that's not my first language. But so it's been great. Truth to be told, the whole thing started because the Frecce Tricolori, the real Frecce Tricolori, will soon change. Well, soon, in a couple of years, they're likely to change their aircraft to cheaper and smaller jet, but still pretty fun to fly.
Is that the new Aeromerci? Or...
I had the Aermacchi M345.
Right, roger.
Which is itself a derivative of the CI Marchetti S211. And since I made the S211 for Flight Simulator, we started saying, well, can we make an M325 maybe in future? No, so and then the thing started. Yeah, but we have the skills, we have the people, we have the team, we have a business structure. Why don't we apply for the third party? And we did, and now here we are.
Roger.
So it's a pretty long story. It's a lot of different things to tell. But I'll stop here. Otherwise, I'll talk for another hour.
Okay. One thing I picked up on that, and I mean, I'm not contracted really. I can say whatever I want. I try and not getting myself in trouble. But one thing I've picked up, not just from you, but from everyone we've spoken to who does things as well as DCS, is that developing for DCS is hard compared to everything else. Just like you said, is there something, or I mean, if you could put like a kind of fix in for that, would it be possible for ED to change their product to make it easier for people to develop? Would that attract more guys? Or I mean, it's hard for me to talk because I'm not a developer. I haven't really got the foggiest clue. But could you give all me your thoughts again without getting you in trouble in kind of 2 minutes? What you think about that?
Well, there are things I cannot say due to NDA. You have to keep in mind that the business model of ED is clearly the opposite of every other simulation platform.
Yeah, agreed.
So, the thing is that most of the other simulation platform make a very strong point of giving you free SDK, which is basically already part of the simulation. So you buy Flight Simulator, and you get an SDK, and so that's their business model. They sell the simulation, and they will not sell the add-ons. And then if you want to sell the add-on, fine, they don't care. Whereas the Ego Dynamics attitude is completely different. It's exactly opposite. So you get the simulation for free, you get the simulator for free, then you pay for the add-on. And so from one side, they are not interested on making the thing fully accessible from one side. So they did not have the drive to provide everybody with an accessible SDK, software development kit.
What about the quality of the... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can add is that theoretically it is possible, I think, to provide developers with a wider set of tools, but it takes a lot of resources. So it's probably not fitting in their picture. And I'm stopping here. Okay,
I'll leave that there as well. It's interesting to me. I'm the other side of the fence, so I don't get to see it. It's just, I want to help wherever I can. Okay, well done, Dina. Right, let's push on. What other modules have you considered bringing to at least DCS in the future, or we're just not that far yet?
Well, that is one thing I cannot talk about. I can tell you that there are some other projects we're looking to very, very seriously. And I can tell you that our logic, our strategy is to try and make modules that we can really deliver. So one essential point, in my opinion, if you are making this for as an official third party, is not to promise things that you cannot deliver. We are a skilled and not so small group, but we are not that large either. So at the moment, we are not looking into developing very complex aircrafts. And I don't mean in terms of simulation fidelity, just the other way around. So in terms of the real aircraft, too complex for us to develop in a reasonable time. So we prefer to have very high simulation fidelity on simpler aircrafts, so that we can try and make promises that we can actually fulfill in a reasonable time.
That works for me, Dino. I like simple. I like simple.
There are good things for on very complex aircraft, but it is for the same reason I was telling before. So if you need to program, for example, an hydraulic system, and you need to program one if you in DCS, as opposed to other simulations in which you have your configurable default hydraulic system. Then if it's a simple one, that's or because the aircraft is simple, then you can get very good fidelity, and it takes some time, but not that long. If you have a very complex aircraft, which has a huge hydraulic system, yeah, that can take quite a lot to do it right. So.
Okay.
But anyway, we have some cool ideas, and hopefully we'll provide more news in
Okay.
a couple of weeks, maybe.
I've tried.
Maybe more.
I tried. I couldn't get it out of you. We'll wait a couple of weeks then, Dino, and see what you come up with. But okay.
Maybe more. Not committing to a couple of weeks. But,
Okay.
but we have some clear ideas on what we want to do for 2021.
That's fine. Right, let's push on. What will be added / improved as it becomes an official module on the 339?
Yeah, well, there are a number of things. Some will be very evident, some others will not. But so the biggest change, the biggest impact you will see is a completely redesigned cockpit. From the graphics standpoint.
Good.
We're having a much better cockpit rendition. It's I'm pretty astonished by the quality level that the art guys made for this one. It's really looking very close to the real one. That's the biggest change. But in terms of functionality, there are two aspects. One thing is the thing you cannot do with a non-official module, just because official third parties get the SDK, get the software development kit. So you can do radio communications in the proper way. You can do navigation in the proper way. You can do. We're looking into having a fully shared cockpit, multi-crew environment, which is one thing that's difficult to do if you don't have the SDK. So by the way, these were the main reasons for the guys to try and achieve the third-party status. There are things you can do, and there are things you cannot do without the SDK.
And damage model too, right?
Sorry?
Damage model.
Damage model. We're having damage model. Yes, we're having also a much deeper simulation of all the onboard systems, including the hydraulic system, which I already mentioned, the electrical system, and it will go down to the point in which you can use individual circuit breakers, and they will affect the electrical circuit in the same way in the same way they do it on the real aircraft. So it's I don't know how many players will use it, but it's going to be a full-fledged simulation of the aircraft.
Well, when we are paying our $80, we appreciate it. We notice the small things. And I like to do reviews of all the aircraft and go into all the little bits. And when you're paying your $80, it's much more appreciated if you've got the little things in there, the little hydraulics and the things that can fail and stuff like that. It really does make a difference, even if it's not evident at first glance that these things are in there.
No, it's cool. But I believe this one is. It's an interesting topic to discuss, but I'll try to keep it short because, as you might have guessed, I'm a very enthusiastic simmer, and whenever we talk about flight simulations, I could really talk for hours. The thing is, where do you stop? Meaning that any simulated aircraft is not the real aircraft. I was actually a private pilot. I had the chance to fly on military jets in my life. Very lucky guy. And I can tell you that the first time you fly into a real jet, for example, I've flown in the MB-326, by the way, which is very, very close to the MB-339. The time you're in there, it's different from anything you are prepared for on your desktop.
Why?
It's a different story.
Why? Tell me why.
It feels different. It's very hard to describe, but it is different. It's just the feeling of the engine on your back is different. The possibility for you. Well, it's one thing it's hard to describe. The physicality of that is completely different. And so, if you got close and personal with a real aircraft, you appreciate the fact that simulation is one thing and reality is another. So, where do you stop the development of a simulated aircraft? Because you have to stop at some point. No? So, are you making a 3D model of every screw of the aircraft? It's useless. It doesn't make any sense. You don't. So that's a clearly out of the of the game in this case. But where do you stop? No, and the reason why we add some details into the aircraft, truth to be told, are more related to the fact that we want them to have to be in the simulation. Even if they are almost useless for any kind of gameplay scenario you can think of, we wanted to create the most realistic simulation of the MB-339, full stop. And we'll try our best. We hope we don't disappoint.
Well, you've got a good base. You've got the main thing for me, anyway, when you get one of these modules, is that you got the feel right. It feels real. So the core, for me, seems to be there. It's almost like you're adding the kind of pretty bits on there. You're adding the pretty cockpit, and you're adding maybe changing the sound engine up. But it's nice you got the feel, because a lot of modules don't. Even ones I spent the $80 on, and won't say what, don't feel as good as that free mod. So that's a good thing. That's a good start, at least.
Yeah, we hope so. It is very difficult to. That's one of the main difficulties in flight simulation, especially for aircraft which have which are not completely or not at all fly by wire. So the fact that when you are in the control of a real aircraft, you can physically feel, and it's not only the force feedback, is the vibration, is the some pilots say that you fly with your ass. It is partially true.
Exactly right, yeah.
Partially true. It's the feeling you have in a loop, for example, in real life. It's very difficult to you got a number of feedbacks that are not in the simulation interface.
Yeah, but it's your job, though. As I always say, and some developers are guilty of this, it's your job as a developer to, through what we see on the screen and what you pump out of our earphones, to give us that feeling. And some planes have done it really well. F-16, Tomcat. So it's possible to an extent, I think. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
No. No, I think you're right, but I think it's difficult. I think there is something that's so the simulation is done by I would say a huge number of factors. Some parts are mathematical, so you have your engine thrust versus altitude curves, and you want to match the real one with the simulated one. That's easy to measure. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Some others are even in some case dependent on the individual player hardware. So if you're playing with one kind of stick versus another kind of stick, you might have a slightly different feeling. But yeah, that's not because I don't want to take responsibility of delivering a good feeling. I'm just saying it's difficult. It is difficult.
Roger. Okay, Dino, well, I'm going to leave that as a you problem. Right, let's push on. Are you going to include a here we go, RNZ, Royal New Zealand?
Yep.
AF, as they operated the 339?
Yeah, they operated the 339, but they had a very special version of the 339. That was the CB version, Charlie Bravo. On this point, we are a little bit undecided at the moment because the CB model is somewhat different externally from the AMLU model, which is the main core of our simulation. So at the moment, our philosophy has been not to add any fictional livery full stop. So so we're considering making one. We're considering making one just because we have some requests for that.
Roger.
It will not be historically correct, but still.
Roger. I mean, it's kind of a moot point in a way, anyway, because as soon as something comes out, the community just makes pretty much every skin possible, and it's like it's going to come someone's going to make it anyway, and they do great jobs. Community guys are like unbelievable what they can do.
Well, one cool thing is about the New Zealand livery is that you might know that New Zealand has basically disbanded or their combat aircraft fleet, and they have been purchased by the Draken International Company. I don't know if you know them, but they are actually being used for MB-339. Former New Zealand livery are being used by Draken for adversary roles and training in mostly in US, and they still have pretty much the same colors of the New Zealand livery, which is a very dark gray, very dark green. Sorry.
Roger.
So,
sorry, go ahead.
They will pop up. Either we make them, or the community will make them. Sure that those two liveries will come to one point or another.
Okay. Bossman asks, how much will it cost, if you even know or get any decision over that?
Yeah, we do have a decision that we cannot communicate in detail at the moment, but it's not going to be a super expensive add-on. That's the only thing I can tell at the moment.
Excellent.
It's not. I would say the medium, maybe range of price, medium high, but definitely not one of the most expensive add-ons.
Good. Yep. No, I won't go any further into that because I don't want to get myself in trouble. But yeah, excellent. Bean asks, will it get AIM-9s like in real life? If so, which ones?
Okay, in reality, the version that we are making, which is again, we're making two versions mostly. The main version is going to be the A version, the alpha version, and the other is going to be the PAN version, the aerobatic version. None of these two, to be exact, we are mostly focusing our simulation on the MLU version, MLU upgrade of those two versions. They did not have the sidewinders in reality. Some more advanced versions will have add the sidewinders and use them, like the New Zealand version, add them. So for the moment, at least the decision is to leave them out. No sidewinders at the moment.
Very good. Autopilot / flight director changes compared to the current free mod.
Okay, the thing is, the MB-339 has no autopilot in real life, and we're not making one for the module. The flight director will change, and will change to the point that will be fully compliant to the flight manual. Meaning that the way that in the real aircraft the navigation is done is you mostly navigate from the HSI, and the HSI has three main modes, which are TACAN, VOR, and what's called air nav in this aircraft, which is basically it would stand for radio navigation, but in reality is a GPS driven mode, and you can select one of them for the HSI, and then on the flight director you will have the option to follow the same reference of the HSI. The long story short is that we will support every kind of navigation system that's supported in the real aircraft, and the flight director will be implemented accordingly.
Roger. It sounds very C-101 to me, and that's what I remember of the C.
It's pretty much all those aircraft in that area were had this kind of interface. So
right. Operating for the same bases and stuff like that, so it makes sense.
Yeah. And in many cases, the instruments are exactly the same.
Right. Can we talk about, I mean, there's just, imagine that the viewer has never even seen this plane before, doesn't have the free mod. Plans for, well, just plans for the air-to-grounds generally. Can you talk about the air-to-ground munitions that we will be getting?
For the moment, we can only confirm the weapons that are in the free mod. So rocket launchers and MK-82. We are planning to add more. There are a number of additional weapons that have been integrated over the years on the MB-339, and our rationale is to basically check what's meaningful to implement and what not. So at the moment, we can confirm the rocket launchers, MK-82, and gun pods. But we are planning to add more.
Roger. Did the real aircraft at any point have guided weapons? Just purely out of my interest.
I don't think so. Maybe for test purposes, but I don't think so.
Roger.
I don't think so.
Okay.
There is a more advanced version, which is the CD version, the completely digital version.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm not sure it has the avionics to support that. I don't think so.
Roger. Next, big question: will the free mod still be available after the professional one is released?
Yeah. Okay. The problem with the idea is yes, meaning that the payware version it's gonna come from IndiaFoxtEcho. The free version will still be available on the Frecce Tricolori Virtuali website. The problem is that we cannot commit to maintenance of the free web version. So there may be the possibility that a new update of DCS will create problems with the current free mod, and it's not that we don't want to. We don't know if we have I would say, firepower to support both. So it would be still available. Not sure if it's going to be updated constantly.
Roger. What Dino's saying there is every few months or weeks or whenever, DCS upgrades itself because it constantly develops. And what that means is that the modules that are in play have to be reprogrammed to suit the changes in the base game. Yeah. So be it. Okay, right, let's punch on. Hi, will there be a RSAF, another one of these, Royal Singapore Air Force skin for the F-15 and F-16? And will there be Black Knight's logo? Okay, thanks, Andrew. I'm not sure. I told you, it's real. Should we skip over that one, shall we? Right.
Yeah.
What are the main... Sorry.
They look cool. Those livery of the F-16 and Black Knights is a pretty cool livery for the F-16, but we're not making one.
Right. Interesting. What are the main challenges into bringing a module into DCS, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, that's... I think I partially replied to this question before, but the main thing is that there's no middle ground. Meaning, if you look into the DCS forums, you will see there's a guide that tells you how to develop an aircraft for DCS, which is very simple. That creates a simple mod, and that's what most of the free mods are based on. That one. And it kind of relies on default functions of AI aircraft, for example.
Roger.
Then, if you want to do anything beyond that, you have to program every single bit of your simulation. So there are very few things that are, I would say, pre-cooked for you to use, and that is, I think, the hardest point. So you need, for example, you need 2 or 3 dedicated programmers to do that. So if you, it is way more complex than other simulation platforms I've been working on.
Yeah, no, completely understand. Okay, we'll skip the next one because it's no longer relevant. What has changed in those 5 years of operations, and what remained the same? I don't actually understand that question. Can you? What is that question?
I think it's related to the fact that in the post we mentioned that IndiaFoxtEcho has been operated, well, commercially operated for 5 years. And I think it's probably not related to this just for these 5 years, but it's a more complicated story, and it's just the fact that the level of quality of the aircraft, and I would say it's not only in DCS but also in Flight Simulator, in Explain, every major platform has made a huge step forward in this past few years. Therefore, maybe like 5-10 years ago, it was doable to make an aircraft almost on your own, but to be on the top of the game, I would say you could still make a top tier add-on module for any major platform on your own, except DCS for the programming thing that we just discussed.
Understood.
And nowadays, you need to have a proper art team. You need to have proper software tools. It's way more complex because the quality is much higher.
Yes. No, absolutely. The next is about DCS in general. I know you're not personally, a DCS guy as such, but your views on where is DCS heading and what is the future of the sim in your eyes?
It's difficult to say. So I don't have a crystal ball. I can tell that my perception is that at the moment, if you are looking into combat flight simulation, it's the undisputed king. So it's by far the best platform you can have if you want to have a realistic combat flight simulation. There are some problems into DCS, of course. So no platform is perfect, no simulator is perfect. I think it badly needs, for example, new weather and lighting system, and possibly needs to have an improvement of the terrain system. I think sorry to speak about another simulator in a DCS environment, but
that's what you got to do.
Right,
yeah.
Microsoft Flight Simulator was really the game changer here. Is the next level. So at a certain point, maybe you don't care. Maybe you just care about the combat scenario, and you don't really need to have a photoreal ground. But part of the success of DCS, at least in terms of things that may lure new users into the platform, is also visual fidelity. And in that respect, you have some modules that are wonderful, like the super carrier modules is top notch. It's the best carrier environment you have in any simulation, full stop. So I think the future is pretty good for DCS. But if you're looking at the shorter term, which is near future, that's the platform to go if you want to do combat flight simulation.
Roger. If we have time left at the end, I'd love to have a bit of a chat about the FS 2020 thing, because I just haven't quite got into it yet. But let's push on for now. What can we expect from the 339 as a virtual module? Can we compare it to something similar in DCS at the moment?
It's different. It's a difficult question because if you want to, meaning that you have to compare yourself to some competitors, and it's a little bit unfair thing to do. If you want to make a general statement of what kind of aircraft it is, if you don't know the MB-339, it is an advanced trainer with closer support capabilities, not much different from the CASA 101 or the British Aerospace Hawk in terms of what kind of aircraft it is. And that's pretty much as far as I can go.
I'm allowed to say anything I want, so I'll just say it. So we've got the L-39 and the C-101, which are trainer light attack aircraft, and they're both excellent modules. There's have no bones about it. But in usability in DCS, they're very limited. We would love to use them on lots of missions, but because of their speed, when you're doing missions, there's only so much you can do going at 250 knots. Now, the great thing we liked about the 339 that we also had in the Hawk, obviously we lost the Hawk, so be it, is that we could go, I can't remember the speeds, but you could go like 400 knots again, and you can actually use it. That's just how it is. We use DCS as a full battle simulator, and L-39 has no use because 250 knots is no use to us. That was why, but that's what's going to make it more useful to us.
Yeah, it is. It is true. It is a higher speed than the aircraft you mentioned. It's not the fastest aircraft in real life and in the simulation because we're matching the speeds very, very closely. It's not the fastest in this class, and sure, you cannot go and fight versus an F-16. That's an unfair game, but it is also in the Falklands War. It had some real fire action because it's mostly, if you're a modern Air Force, you use it as a trainer first and foremost. But things are changing also for larger, I would say, not very small countries, in the sense that you might want to do some operations also with inexpensive aircrafts because taxpayers, money. Everybody needs to, there's no Cold War anymore in Europe, so more and more these kind of aircrafts are having also small operational rules that can be, for example, air policing missions for slow movers, close air support, this kind of roles. But it remains the fact that that MB-339, in its concept, was mostly a trainer.
Roger. Okay, very good. Is developing? Sorry, someone want Kelso go?
Yeah, Cap. Just relationship on my time in 339. I found it vastly superior to the current two mini jets that we have. Very balanced, more like a aerobatic aircraft than I found the other two as being relatively.
You're talking kinematically or performance weapon wise? You're talking kinematically, right?
Yeah, the stick and rudder.
Right. Yeah, of course, it is. It is really night and day over those two. In terms of how much your climb rate, your power, and stuff like that. Absolutely. One of the reasons we really like it. You can get up high and then do that dive bomb down. C-101, L-39, great planes, but to get up to 6,000 feet and go for your next bomb run takes forever. Just saying.
Yeah. But it's very good. I had no chance to fly on the real MB-339. I've flown an MB-326, and it's a remarkably easy aircraft to fly, and which is absolutely good for a trainer to a certain point, at least. And the performance is not bad. It's not that bad as it might seem.
One additional comment on your earlier cap regarding the feel of the aircraft. Until you've actually gotten one and done aerobatics, there's no way, no comparison whatsoever in a sim.
Yeah.
The closest thing might be a fully articulated one, six, where the whole module is moving around, but you can't get the how heavy your head gets in G's and all that.
Yeah, the first time you see the ground upside down during a loop is a very strange feeling. Very strange. Totally unprepared.
You're making me jealous now, boys. It's not fair. Okay, let's push on, guys. And the next one is really obvious, but we'll ask it. Is developing a smaller trainer aircraft easier than something massive like an F-14? Can it be recreated quicker and more efficient?
The answer is quite obvious, with a small remark. In reality, yes, absolutely. So the F-14 is an extremely complex aircraft, which is also the reason why it has been replaced by the Super Hornet, even if Northrop Grumman provided the plan for further upgrade after the Super Tomcat. It's wonderful. It's my favorite aircraft ever, but it's very complex. You can think of when Ed Heinemann designed the A4, the Skyhawk, in the late 50s. No? That was already that tendency of creating super machines that were super complex. And Ed Heinemann said, no, we need to make a very simple machine and make it in thousands of units. And if you are into the A4, you will see that whatever is not strictly needed for flying, it wasn't there, at least in the initial versions. So yeah, the answer is yes, absolutely. With the major difference being the fact that most modern aircrafts, like the F-35, they are changing things in the sense that the general architecture of the aircraft is much more computer driven, and I would say modern in one way, so more integrated. And in that sense, some system simulations would be easier to perform. But in general, that's, of course, it's much easier to do a smaller, simpler aircraft than a very complex one.
Roger. Can you gain access to the real jet and collect data for the module, or is it complicated and have to be another way?
Well, we had access to full access to the MB-326, which is, as we discussed previously, it's sibling. They're very similar aircraft in many respects. You do have numerous occasions to get close and personal with the MB-339, and we did in Italy just because it's the official aircraft of the National Aerobatic Team. So it's very often on display. And in many cases, you can actually climb into the aircraft and make good pictures and detailed walkarounds. But in addition to that, I would say it's even more important. It's an extremely well documented aircraft. So it's very easy to find. Well, at least it's easier than other aircraft compared to other aircraft. It's very easy to find all the information you need, even if it's very detailed. Flight manuals, you can very easily find them online. Performance manual, weapons delivery. That's a very, very important point, because that's kind of uncommon. If you're willing to make a full-fledged top tier, which is what we aspire to. It's not that we hope that we don't want to overpromise, but our target is to make a very good simulation of the MB-339. Then your model needs to be very, very well documented. That's the key point.
Roger. Okay, I remember Wagscott told us some really secret documents for the F-18, and I've been begging and pleading for him to give them to me, but he will not give them up. So I don't know how you guys get hold of some of those documents of planes that are still active. But anyway, I suppose 339 is a bit different, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a design that is from the 70s. But again, since it's very important for us Italians as an aircraft, everybody loves that. So if you talk with your old uncle that knows nothing about aircraft, he knows the plane of the Frecce Tricolore.
Yeah.
So you can very easily identify that aircraft.
It's your BAE Hawk. That's what we have.
Yeah, exactly.
Very beloved. Yeah. Okay.
And therefore, there is a lot of modeling sites, like plastic modeling sites, full of every kind of information you want. Very, very detailed.
We have here, do you have any MB-339 pilots to help you with the systems and flight envelope? And just before you kick off, I've interviewed several developers now, and they really think pilots, you have to have pilots to give the feedback, but it's also a bit of a double-edged sword, they found.
Yep.
You can have two pilots who have both flown the same plane for 10 years and got the same amount of hours, and they'll give you different feedback because you've got the human in the link. You've got human error. But your thoughts, please.
So the answer is yes. We do have real world MB-339 pilots that can help us that have already tested the free module, and they can help us in getting feedback. But I absolutely recognize that it's a double-edged sword, as you said, because I think that's my own theory. Don't take it for the absolute truth. In most cases, pilots are more tolerant. Yeah, they are more tolerant to they're more tolerant to the fact that simulation. So they are immediately they can immediately separate the reality, which was their job, from a computer software. No. And so they may not be very, very picky on some specific details. I've seen pilots, real-world pilots, flying simulated aircraft, which we would consider nowadays medium to low quality level of fidelity. And they were super happy just because they had their own aircraft into the sim. You know? So. And then there's man in the loop, so you might have different opinions, different feelings. Maybe also that some pilots have noticed one detail that it's completely irrelevant for another pilot, which brings us to the same question, which is what do you bring into the sim? So what we're trying to do is to bring as much as we can, but the priority will go to any specific aspect of the aircraft. So it's good to have pilots. They may. The best thing is that they know some things that are not written in the manuals. Like, for example, in the manuals, you find a lot of test flight data. But for one reason or another, they might not be completely realistic, meaning that sometimes you find actually the maximum speed, but a real pilot knows that the maximum speed is attained in very specific conditions, which are more often than not what happens. And then there are a number of other factors which are difficult from in some cases to evaluate, like drag. Drag of the aircraft is of course you can have drag tables and draw it from there, but for example the MB-339 the aerobatic configuration, which has no tip tanks, is significantly slower than the one with the tip tanks, just because the way drag interacts with the end of the wing. So it's those bits of information are really valuable from a real world pilot.
I have another
Send.
It doesn't cost tens of thousands of dollars to maintain each year.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But it's there's a recurrent joke between as flight simulator developers is that which is aimed to some specific developers now, which brag about the fact that their model has been flight tested by real pilots. Like that's the
gold standard.
ultimate seal of approval. That's the best simulation you can deliver. My attitude in that is, if you're in doubt about one thing about the aircraft, stick to the flight manual.
Yeah,
that's the
official document.
And it's amazing how you can get very strange replies even for roll rate. So some pilots say, well, the roll rate is not enough. The roll rate is too fast or too slow. And in reality, you get completely opposite reply from different pilots.
Well, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. It's helpful, but you need even more than that. I can go and say as far as that there are simmers which are way more picky than pilots in the judging the realism.
Yeah. Well, we better not go down that road, but yep, that's fine.
No, absolutely.
What is your favorite module that is available in DCS and why? And you're not allowed to say your own.
No, absolutely. I would not, because apart from the fact that it's not available yet, F-14, the Tomcat, I think the Hitler did really an outstanding job with that. I've been making F-14 modules for Flight Simulator and P3D for years, meaning literally decades. Maybe it probably started making one like 20 years ago and went through several iterations. But their edition is completely at another level. It's fantastic. It's my favorite aircraft of all time, which helps. But they did a wonderful job of that.
Roger. And I would love to fly in our missions if ED could please fix the track files. I would love to do that. So some more, but until you do that. Next question. Is it possible for a developer to create something like the supercarrier, but for the airfield? So if you pay for the pack, you can have a real ground crew dealing with the aircraft at the airbase instead of an empty tarmac and boring scene. Fair question.
Yeah, that's a fair question. My background is mostly on 3D art for what concerns flight simulation, so I'm not really too much into programming in general, and DCS programming in particular. I would guess that the biggest difficulty, I don't know if it's possible, I guess that the biggest difficulty is that with all its apparent mass, a carrier is a very structured environment, whereas an airport is much larger and probably in some way less structured environment. This may create some difficulty, and I think maybe it's one thing that we'll see in future in other simulators too. But Flight Simulator, again, the new Flight Simulator is a good example in the fact that there are some, of course we're talking about civil aviation here, but you do have some airport services which are provided by 3D modeled ground crew. So maybe it will come to DCS. I have no idea. It would be cool. It really helps a lot in the immersion because you can see like the scale of your aircraft. And it helps a lot in the... I cannot tell if it's feasible or not, but count me, and if someone does that, I will bite.
Roger. I've just been skipping ahead. What engine will be used in the 339 module? Can you give us some idea of the flight characteristics? So this is a Viper.
Yeah, it's a Viper 63243. There are a number of different variants of the Viper, but again, we're modeling the 63243. In general, the flight characteristics are extremely good. Extremely good. It's if you ever seen a show from the real life, I mean, but the simulated version is very, very close to the real world performance. If you've ever seen the real world Frecce Tricolori air show, don't focus too much, although it is spectacular, on the formation flight, which is wonderful, but it's not really pushing the aircraft to the limit. If you look at the solo display, it really shows that it's an excellent trainer, very easy to fly, very responsive to controls. It's an excellent plane in that respect.
Good, very good. How do you plan to recreate sounds for the module? So I'm guessing what engines, buttons in the cockpit, levers, canopy up and down, etc.
Yeah, we in a number of different ways, but we first and foremost we do have decent recordings of pretty much everything that's in the cockpit. But we have plans to get better recordings in the next few months, and that's how far I can go. But we have already some good source material at the moment.
I'll tell you a story. I was at RAF Duxford. It's a flying, if you like, kind of flight museum in England, and it was Flying Legend, so it was all the World War II planes, and the apron was very busy with all sorts of World War II warbirds and stuff there, and very controlled. You can only have certain personnel, and there was this long-haired guy running around, I remember, sticking a whopping great microphone in the exhausts of all the aircraft, including BF-109. Sorry, it was the Spanish, the fake BF-109. I can't remember what it's called now. Sticking it in there, and I was like, "What's that crazy guy doing there?" And it was the lead recording guy of ED. It turns out, and he was recording stuff for the next BF-109, which we've got now. Sounds really so. Literally, he had a microphone. He was just charging up to these things, trying to catch the different frequencies and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just found that really interesting. Rather than drive, you'd literally go out there and Anyway, I just found that cool. Right, sorry. Done the question 24. 25, can you develop a module where you can have pop-up messages that helps you to understand the use of the systems and controls of the aircraft, and that when you are comfy with the jet, you can turn them off? I've been interested in, well, not me making, but I've been interested in getting this put into DCS, but any thoughts on that?
Yeah. As far as I know, the sim, it can be done. It's from some aspects it's a relatively easy thing to do. In terms of display interface. From other aspects, it's a little bit more complicated because it is sometimes I think it's difficult for a program for a software to understand what the player wants to do, which is if you have a real instructor with you, it's a two-way conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas if you have so I can go back to for a little bit in the again Microsoft Flight Simulator territory. It has this kind of system already in the new sim, but it does not work really well, in my opinion, just because sometimes it's making comments on things you don't have in your mind. So it fails to understand what is the doubt in the student mind, and that I think it's a tricky part.
So you can't. What we're saying is you can't just have a dumb computer spitting things at you. You've got to have an intelligent thing that can work with the pilot.
I think it is much better, much better.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Yep, no, absolutely. Unfortunately, I've pretty much run out of time, Dino. It's just how it is today. But what I'll do now is I'll just blast through the next ones. Well, I'll blast through the ones I think are important,
Okay.
if it's okay. 26, it will be available for red and blue, just like all aircraft. 27, do we have an air-to-air gun, and what type?
Yeah, the DEFA cannons will be an option. Yep.
Will we ever have chaff and flare dispensers?
No, the real aircraft does not have them.
Roger. Briefly, if you may, what started your passion for aviation, and how did you discover DCS?
That's
hard to do in 30 seconds, isn't it?
Very hard to make it brief, but that long story short is that since I was like 6 years old, I am one of those guys which always looked at the sky and see if you could spot any airplane. And every time I got in contact with anything related to aviation, that's my life. That's my passion. And I think it's the same thing for most of the people we are listening to this.
Absolutely. What version of the jet is selected for the module? The A version and the PAN version. The PAN being the aerobatics version. Sorry. Yeah.
MLU, midlife update. There are not many differences, but mostly the aerobatic version typically does not mount the wingtip tanks. It has a smoke system, and usually, it does not have a gun sight, which is replaced by 2 smoke system indicators. So, the MLU, midlife upgrade version of the A and PAN versions.
Thank you very much. Do you reckon if there was a free helicopter, we could get more people into helicopters? Well, there is. I've just discovered it. It's the Little Bird A6, I think it is, guys. It's free, completely free, and like the 339, it has a great flight model. It feels just like a real helicopter as far as the layman can tell. Go out, download it, you'll love it, I guarantee, and then go out and buy your Huey. It's there sitting for you. Whoever made that Little Bird, I would like to interview you next. I would love to do that, and we can go further with that. Anything you want to add to helicopters?
Oh no, I'm a fixed wing guy. I don't know anything about them.
That's fair enough. I mean, we've got the one saying, is the jet good for aerobatic? Obviously, it is one of the best, aerobatic light jets in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, but I will also tell you one thing that most people outside Italy, with exception of Italian aviation enthusiasts, probably don't know, is the only jet in the world that's capable to do the Lobsvac maneuver.
Okay, unaware of that.
Which is that is the particular design of the aircraft. It was not by design. It's one thing that they discovered. It is such that there is no problems with the airflow to the jet engine, which is what limits other jet aircraft from doing so. And that's a pretty spectacular maneuver. And we are very proud on the fact that the flight model is so advanced that you can replicate the Lobsvac exactly in the same way the real aircraft does. It's a pretty difficult maneuver to pull, but it's possible in the sim.
Roger. One final question. How do you separate the team, and what tasks do you attend first when starting a new project? Collecting info, starting on the basic module airframe, instrument panels, and so on.
It's again a thing that we can talk for hours.
Really quickly.
But in general, there are two. It also depends on which platform you're talking about, because in DCS the flight modeling, basically you would group them with the coding group. So you have mainly 2 groups. That's the art group and the coding group. That's the main split you do. But for example, for some simulators, you might have a separate function for flight modeling, just because it does not really require programming. It's just data entry. It's an understatement, but you don't need to program to know how to program in C++ to make a flight model in most simulators. You need to program in C++ if you want to make a flight model for DCS.
That's just how it is, I'm afraid. Yes,
yeah. So basically, the biggest split is that and the other. In respect of how we evaluate new projects, I think that the most difficult thing is just the fact that to put a brake on your enthusiasm. So developing an aircraft is not an easy task. It will take at least 1 full year if you start from scratch, but that's a very optimistic estimate. And so the problem is when you said before that there are different fences in the flight simulation world. Me being in the developer side, the developer playground means that, well, I can do whatever I want. That's the thought in your mind, which is extremely dangerous. Because you can start, you see a new plane, you discover a new plane on a magazine, and yeah, I'll do that. And next week you change your mind, and next week you change your mind. It's difficult. You need to stick to projects you can deliver, and those projects need to be well documented. And so there is a lot of research work before you actually start working on a new aircraft.
Roger. Right. Okay. Dino, thank you very much for the interview. I would usually go on to kind of open questions at this point, but in this case, I'm going to have to run. And my apologies for hurrying you at the end. It's just, as you know, we had to rush this together at the last minute, and I'm in massive trouble of losing my free time privileges because I'm supposed to be somewhere at the moment. I'm going to get in trouble. So just one thing to say that's important for me and my guys is that it's lovely. And I'm not saying this isn't like this a lot, but it's lovely to meet a new developer and you be such a nice guy. For me, that's really important. Not all of the developers are, as I'm sure everyone's aware here, not all nice guys. So it's lovely to have such a nice free-talking guy. We can just talk all day, and I'd love nothing more to do than that. But that's how it is. So thank you for coming on. I really look forward to the module, as in really do. I know I'll probably say that again about everything, but this one I actually do. And I don't know. I just can't wait to see what the future holds for us.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure. And whenever I get the chance to talk with flight simulator and flight simulation enthusiasts, I could really talk for hours. So
Alison won't be happy. Trust me. You'll have to answer to her. Okay, Dino. Thank you very much. I'll see you later, boys. I'll see you later, and bye bye from me.
Thank you.